Hello guys, it's 899 here and welcome to NRL Tips and Predictions Round 18. We're almost there. We're almost at the business end of the season. And by God, this season has gone relatively quickly. But anyways, let's just jump into it. So no Thursday games, we're immediately jumping into Friday night action, and at 6 PM it is an absolute monolithic clash. It is the North Queensland Cowboys hosting the Cronulla Sharks. I mean, what's not there to say? Second versus fourth, two genuine teams that could go on to win this competition, battling it out. Cowboys now just moving up to second after the Melbourne Storm's recent dip in form. It really is like a match that we could potentially see later on in the finals. Obviously last week Cronulla got the win against a bit of a weakened Melbourne, and the Cowboys did have a bye, so both teams should be relatively fresh for this matchup. I think it's going to be match of the round easily, but with the fact of being in North Queensland, and personally, by the way, I think like the Cowboys have been beating harder opposition recently, I'm actually going to give my prediction that the North Queensland Cowboys will take this game. Now we go to the main game on Friday night, and it is the Parramatta Eels hosting the New Zealand Warriors. Now, Warriors had the bye after their return in their back to New Zealand in round 16. Parramatta did have a bit of a shaky game against the Tigers, but they did end up getting the win at Leichhardt. Just the way I feel about it at the moment, I think Parramatta should be okay. Like, I know there've been a bit of results where they've been a bit close to losing against lower teams that they should realistically be beating, but I think they should be all okay, and I do think that the Parramatta Eels will be taking the win over the New Zealand Warriors. Now moving into Saturday, it's at 3 PM. We have got a game which very much is a must-win for both teams in regards to the race for the finals, as it's basically now once again kind of come down to a, well, how do we say, like the bottom two places. But then again, it is also open up a lot more, potentially if Parramatta and Brisbane do drop off. So a lot of teams charging for the finals, and these two teams very much certainly are. It is the Sydney Roosters up against the St George Illawarra Dragons. Now, the Roosters had a bye week last week, and they are coming off a relatively good performance against Penrith back in round 16, but Penrith obviously too good and edged them out. And St George are coming off a pretty interesting loss to the Broncos. As the baby Broncos is being touted, so because with the amount of players that Brisbane had out in that match, it really should have been a solid win for the Dragons in their push for the finals. But obviously, Suncorp is a cruel mistress, and Brisbane were able to go up on the day. But in terms of this match, so currently at the moment, the Dragons are situated in 9th place on 18 points, while the Roosters are currently on 10th with 16 points, along with Canberra. So this game for the Dragons is huge, because the Dragons could actually put the Roosters in a 4-point gap pretty much from making the finals. Obviously, you still need to figure out circumstances like teams like Manly and Canberra or what they're going to do this round. So, but the way I honestly feel about it's going to happen, I think the Roosters will be able to take out the win. It's just, I don't know, I just have this feeling that like the Roosters now will understand of how important the game is. And I think they will. I think the Dragons might overestimate the Roosters. Obviously, they beat the Roosters on Anzac Day, but I do think that the Roosters will be able to take this win. Now we go to the second game on Saturday. It is also another important match because it does involve one of the teams in that area trying to fight for the final spots in the finals. It is the Manly Warringah Seagulls hosting the Newcastle Knights. Now, Newcastle Knights actually had an all-right game against South Sydney. It's weird. They lost 40 points to 28 after the Knights had a brilliant period of utter dominance, and then just put their foot on the brake, actually, to say the least. But it wasn't a thrashing by South, even though they scored 40 points. Manly obviously had the bye last week, and their actual last game was the 36-30 game against Melbourne. So you'd obviously would hope for Manly's sake that they don't take the absolute foot off the brake. Obviously, we might not know what will be happening in terms of some of the players, for example. You don't have Jack Trbojevic is going to be there because the team list hasn't really been announced. This is why you never do it, but I kind of have to because of timing purposes. But I do feel like that Manly will be strong enough. I mean, they belted the Knights in the reverse fixture up in Newcastle. And I think at 4 Points Park, I think the Manly Seagulls will be alright. I think they should win. I'm an overcastrian, of course. And now we go to the final game on the Saturday, and it is a Queensland derby. It's a South Queensland derby, well, technically, as the Gold Coast Titans take on the Brisbane Broncos. So, Brisbane Broncos, the baby Brisbane Broncos, had a very decent win over the St. George Illawarra Dragons. With the amount of players, obviously, because of late changes, because Corey Oates has been basically launched straight for the Queensland team. The Titans had a bye week this week, which is very important because it also saw the Tigers lose, which pretty much has set the Tigers back down to last place. So there is a lot of just trying to check the Titans' last game. It was against the Knights, 38 points to 12, which was personally very easily their worst performance of the year. So with this game, obviously the Titans want to avoid the spoon, and the Broncos kind of want to split, pretty much solidify themselves into the finals. It's going to be I think it's going to be a very close game. Obviously, the reverse fixture, the Titans ran out on an absolute belter. Like, they ran away like that motorcycle fuckwit they just went past. Obviously, then the Broncos ended up coming back in the second half. So, personally, I'm going to say that the Broncos will be getting the win here, but at least they'll have at least the Titans, I know, we'll get good numbers in crowd, hopefully. Please, they're in a bit of straits. Their assistant literally just walked away from the club yesterday. Yeah, so hopefully, I do feel for the Titans, but I feel the Broncos should be too strong for them. Speaking of the West Tigers, they are playing in the first game on Sunday as they take on the Penrith Panthers. It is 16th hosting first. I don't think I really need to go into what's going to happen. I sense 50. Penrith win. Now we go to the second game on Sunday, and it is the Melbourne Storm up against the Canberra Raiders. Obviously, the Storm have kind of fallen off with some of their players being out, basically playing a sort of B team, which has been able to drop points against teams like Cronulla, making Cronulla fans think they're going to do some of this. I don't know. It's weird how this Storm team is actually currently going, and they're taking on Canberra, who again is one of these teams trying to cling on to a final spot, as they're currently obviously tied at 10th with the Roosters, and a win could see them tied with the Manly and the St. George, depending on what happens. So it is a very much an important match, and hopefully the Storm can get some of their players back for the fans' sake. But if they don't, honestly, I'm going to go bold here. And I think Canberra is actually going to take the win here. It'll be pretty much like the kick up the arse that the Storm need. Because, yes, they have lost over the last couple of weeks. But it's been in New South Wales. But they lose then in Melbourne. That is when the foot's going to come down, I feel. And then we go to the final game on Sunday. It is the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs up against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. So, the Bulldogs had the week off for the bye. And they also had a very scrappy game against Cronulla in round 16. Obviously, due to the weather, I mean, any team winning there was basically luck of the draw, and Cronulla were very much more strong enough. South Sydney, though they did have a good performance against the Knights, a stretch of run, they didn't put the Knights to bed until the Knights were still relatively in the game. That was the weird thing. Obviously, Latrell coming back is a big plus for them. Not playing Origin, so it's mainly going to be focusing on South Sydney for this game. So now, this game is actually quite hard because South Sydney obviously are currently in 7th place and the Bulldogs are currently in 14th. But the way I see in terms of the Bulldogs play, if the Bulldogs can really get into the play style that they got in wins against the Parramatta, as an example, I genuinely feel like the Dogs can properly put the fight to the Cowboys, not to the Cowboys, the bloody Rabbitohs, which makes me personally think, and this is probably the call of the season. Personally, I think the Dogs will actually beat the Rabbitohs. It's I don't know. Bloody Josh Adokar released t-shirt, $65 t-shirt. The trot's on. So anyways, that is the end of my round 18 predictions. Do you differ in any way from me? Let me know in the comments below. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you all later.